Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Taking a look at this Oklahoma offense heading into 2023. Last weekend, we took a look at a defense, talked about how that defense to take some massive steps. And what for Oklahoma fans, I think you have to be really excited about is you take a look at that Oklahoma offense last year. And I think most Sooner fans like we left some meat on there. Like that offense could have been better. And then you take a look at what they actually were on the field. Top 25 in points per game, 11th in yards per game. Like this was a very good offense that I think can get better in 2023. Now you have to replace a lot of like key contributors, like guys like Marvin Mims, Willis, Eric Gray, who is one of my favorite running backs, two really good offensive tackles. But you have a lot of names to be excited for. Going to be diving into it now. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and especially the Sooner fans. Every time we talk Oklahoma football, I have a blast talking about it. Very high on what BV can do in Norman. But mostly, like the support you guys have shown, like truly means a lot. So, one, if you do enjoy it, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, let us know in the comment section what you guys are thinking, what players we should be watching out for. Again, this is the best part about doing it is just chopping it up about football with you guys in the comment section. So, appreciate you guys. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. This Oklahoma offense heading into 2023, how are we feeling?
Yeah, and you talked about it. Obviously, the whole year just feels like a disappointment. So I think it is hard to think about what went right. But I mean, Dillon Gabriel coming into a new scheme, Jeff Levy, same thing. Like everyone was kind of coming into a very new situation in the way that Lincoln Riley left. So I think like as much as we talk about the defense and like, yeah, we expect that just natural improvement because it's the second year with Venables and what comes with that. But I mean, you talking the same things on the offense, and given all that was going on, you still had an offense that put up a lot of points in a year where Gabriel wasn't even healthy all the time. So I think you're expecting again just that natural improvement.
That's the biggest thing I think like the national media is just ignoring with this Oklahoma team is that like I mean, yeah, the hype was a lot last year and we probably ignored the potential for these growing pains. I mean, like Lincoln Riley took a lot of production with him to USC and like Oklahoma, I mean, Brent Venables a first year head coach, you have new court, you have new everything, new transfer quarterback. It was foolish of us to not expect some sort of growing pains. And so like heading into year 2, you're probably ironing out some of those growing pains and like this Oklahoma team has the talent to be special. Now, I want to dive into the offense because you do have to replace a lot of really, really good players. Like Marvin Mims, I truly think was one of the best wide receivers in the country that nobody talked about. You saw how valued he was by the NFL community in terms of how he won in the draft. Starting with the quarterback position, Dillon Gabriel probably comes back because he also felt as good as he was, as solid as he was last year, like he left some meat on the bone. He could have played better in some bigger moments. What I'm most excited about is just adding some competition / depth to this quarterback room because when Dillon Gabriel couldn't play, like it was bad. Like there was just not a quarterback behind them they felt comfortable with. Hey, guess what? Now you have 5-star Jackson Arnold, who the boys are very, very excited about. The competition, I expect just to raise all the boats in that quarterback room.
But I also think like Gabriel's coming back knowing that this offense is in a very good spot. I think
Yes.
again, like you talk about, he had a very productive year, but there were those moments against Kansas State. I mean, he asked to hit Drake Stoops on that route. Like that's one of those like defining plays that again, it is one throw, and for the most part, he was very good. But that type of play, you got to make it. And I
Yep.
think he knows he's got to make it. I think he wants to show that he can make it. But I also think he knows this offense. Again, they are losing some key contributors. But you look at this wide receiver room; they're getting a lot back, and frankly, the fact that he's coming back makes me wonder what these young guys can possibly do.
That's what I want to get into because if you did have a massive question mark about this Oklahoma team, it is in the pass catcher. Like Marvin Mims was the guy when they needed a big play through the air, it was going to Marvin Mims or Willis or Theo Weiss. Like they lose some of the top guys in the back end. Now, yes, it's a largely kind of an unproven wide receiver room, but it's definitely not a not talented wide receiver room. And I want to start with Jaleel Farouk, who we were banging the table for last year heading into the season. This is the year where, like, I think he's the guy. I think he's the wide receiver one in the offense. And from a trait standpoint, he certainly has the capability to do so.
I mean, Jaleel Farouk is like one of those
He's
real
your guy.
special playmakers at the wide
Yes.
receiver spot. Like maybe not the home run threat in terms of vertical passing game that Marvin Mims was, and that's not like a knock on his ability to get downfield because he can do it. I'm just
Marvin
saying
is
Marvin
elite
Mims
at
is
it.
like elite at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So Jaleel Farouk again, he adds the ball when he gets the ball in his hands, he's electric, and when that Jeff Levy offense is getting guys in space, I mean, you look at him. You look at possibly Angelo Anthony, who a guy coming from Michigan, who the few moments we saw him get any freedom to move, operate in space, he did play very well. So I think you're looking for those two guys to really pop off. And then you have Drake Stoops, who's just that consummate professional slot guy. He's just always
so. I was going to ask you, after Jaleel Farouk, who I think we both agree probably the wide receiver one in this offense heading into 2023, I was going to ask, who do you think's the next name that steps up in this Oklahoma offense if you were to pick a wide receiver two that's going to be productive for the Sooners?
I kind of think Stoops is going to have the most yards just because I think he's going to catch a ton of targets.
You know what he is. Yeah, like Drake Stoops is going to create separation. He's going to be a quarterback's best friend in creating separation, like in those short intermediate routes. Anything that touches his hands, he's going to catch. He's good after the catch. If you were to ask me this question, and probably the biggest wild card, because I think Jaleel Farouk can play. You know what Drake Stoops is. I'm going to Angelo Anthony. And what you're hearing out of fall camp is he's that guy. Obviously, as a Michigan fan, we know Angelo Anthony really well. And I'll tell you this, what you saw from Angelo Anthony, if you listen to any of how we talked about Michigan last year, like Angelo Anthony going into year two, we were so excited. Really, really smooth mover, has a really good frame, good hands. He just didn't get the opportunities in year two. He was banged up a little bit, and that Michigan offense is not like, so let's just be honest, it's not the most creative offense in terms of getting your wide receivers open. I cannot wait to see what Jeff Levy can do with Angelo Anthony because I think he is dripping with talent.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just think this unit or offensive scheme fits him far better than what Michigan.
100%.
And like again, it was like line up, kind of.
And you had Michigan only ran like two routes for their wide receivers. It was like deep post or dig, like that. I mean, it's just like wasn't very creative. Angelo Anthony's game is running routes, like creating separation. He is a smooth mover. And I'm gonna sound like an idiot right now, but like you were to comp him to like a guy in the he's kind of Justin Jefferson-esque in terms of the movement skills and the route running he can do. I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson, just saying that's like kind of how he models his game. He's a smooth mover. I think Angelo Anthony can have a massive year. And then another, now I'm just gushing over pass catchers that are largely unproven, but I'm going to do it anyway. Brennan Thompson, Jaquez Petaway. You're looking for someone.
And you're talking like that's the question. Who's going to be that real deep threat? Again, like not to take anything from Farouk and Anthony. Those guys can do it, but they don't do it the way Marvin Mims did it. And who's going to step into that role and create those 50-plus yard plays that are just so important for these college football teams that want to have a real high-octane offense?
Yeah, and Brennan Thompson, you know what he can do in terms of just burners. Was one of the fastest players in that 2022 class. And then you go to a true freshman, Jaquez Petaway, who big frame. We did him in our freshman spotlight. Big, fast. That's a good combination. One of those two I feel pretty comfortable in terms of stepping up. You also have guys like Jaden Gibson and Gavin Freeman, who I think can be productive as well. The next position I want to go to, and like this is kind of a massive storyline for Oklahoma, is this offensive line. You lose a guy in Anton Harrison, who we both had as a top 20 NFL draft pick. He was a stud for Oklahoma last year. Wanya Morris, also very, very good. You have to replace both tackles. I think on paper, you have question marks about it. You go out and get Walter Rouse, one of the most proven left tackles. Every team wanted a left tackle in the transfer portal. Oklahoma able to get Walter Rouse in. And then on the other side, Tyler Guyton. And I like Jacob Sesson. I like Aaron Parks as well. Am I going to say this offensive tackle play is going to be as good as you saw last year when you lose two NFL draft picks? I'm not going to go that far. It's certainly not going to be a liability. I think this offensive line is going to be damn good.
You saw Parks and Guyton like go in that game, and we were thinking like, this Florida State defense is going to tear them up a little bit. Those two both stood tall. I thought they both played really well. So now you throw in Walter Rouse and assuming Jacob Sexton kind of plays at the level we think he can play at and what his talent says he should play at, you're probably looking at 3 or 4 dependable tackles. So again, it's not a unit that's going to get better necessarily, but it won't be. I don't think it's going to be a problem. And then you get on the inside, you get Raymond Mettauer back. They both look really good. And then you're adding Schaefer and possibly even Caden Green. So I think you just have a pretty deep room. I think you can be tough there again. It was a good unit last year. It's going to be a good unit this year. It's kind of
I trust Coach Bill Biedenbaugh up front with my life. Like he's going to have this offensive line cooking. And again, I think it's every team wants depth at offensive tackle. Oklahoma has 4 guys that I think they're comfortable trotting out there. And that's massive going into college football season. Now, I didn't want to ignore Austin Stogner, who I think is massive to have back as a big body that can work the middle of the field. But I want to go to this running back room that you lose Eric Gray. Eric Gray was a top 5 running back for both of us in the NFL draft. Extremely good at making people miss at the second level. You have an absolute hammer in Javonte Barnes, who became on our radar last year in the spring game, where like this early enrollee freshman is absolutely laying the wood, running the ball extremely hard. Did not look like an early enrollee freshman. He's coming in to kind of be the workhorse along with Gavin Sawchuk. They may be a little bit of a different skill set, but in terms of like the running back play, like I don't see the running back room really missing a spot. DeMarco Murray's done a phenomenal job in this room.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You got like you're probably gonna have a different flavor because Javonte Barnes runs a lot different than how Gray did, and it's not a bad thing. You might be able to wear on some teams in the Big 12 that want to play
especially when you're running fast, man. Hey,
so,
you don't want to tackle Javonte Barnes 25 plus times a game. Like
especially because you got teams that are designed to stop like the actual Oklahoma offense, which is fundamentally get the ball out in space, spread it out, and be athletic on the edge. But then when you can hammer teams inside too, you then need to essentially have those linebackers who are those freaky, big, athletic, and go sideline to sideline. And frankly, you just don't see a ton of them. They're very hard to find.
Yeah, I do think that this Oklahoma, I think it's going to be a little bit more of an umph in the backfield, and I think that could be a good thing for the Sooners. So, like, kind of projecting this offense, wrapping up here, I think the storyline is you have Dillon Gabriel back. I think you're expecting him to just take a step forward, second year with the program, second year working with Jeff Lebby in Norman. And then, like, the big question mark that it's a question mark, but I don't think, like, there's not answers on this roster is the pass catcher room. And if you can get pass catchers to emerge, like Jalil Farouk, Angelo Anthony, one of the Brennan Thompson, Jaquez Petaway, like, I think this offense can take a step in the right direction. And then you talk about this defense where we expect them to take a massive step in the right direction. This Oklahoma team is going to be really, really good in 2023. Obviously, a team that we love to talk about. Obviously, a team we're very high on. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys as usual. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate all the Sooner fans with the Boomer Sooners in the comment section. You guys mean a lot to the boys. We'll talk to y'all later.